Hello everybody, and welcome back to Aero League Racing Tier 2. My name is Aman, and you all join me today for what should be the second last race of the season. You join me at Qatar, which should give us a very exciting race. 29 laps around this beautiful circuit, and I know things are a bit rushed at the moment since the stream started a bit late. So while we have the opportunity, why not quickly discuss the standings? So at the moment, Jaguar is currently leading the championship with 107 points, but following him very closely behind is Robin with 100 points. In P3, we have Bambino with 96 points, only separated by the leader by 11 points. In P4, we have Crofties, who's currently sitting in P4 with 72 points, and in P5, we have DRS Neil with 65 points. In P6, we have Lando Bot, and P7, Saeed Al Falafsi. P8 goes to Cassell, P9 goes to Trems, and P10 goes to Lucky High. Ooh, did not mean to leave the session there. And that would round off the driver standings. Looking at the constructor standings at the moment, Ferrari lead the championship with 143 points, but Red Bull are closely following them behind with 134. Alpine in P3 with 115. We have AlphaTauri in P4 with 106, and Aston Martin in P5 with 104. Mercedes, Alfa Romeo, Williams, McLaren, and Haas would round off the rest of the top 10. So a three-way championship fight is underway at the moment here in Tier 2. And with time winding down and not much longer left to go in this in the season, it's only a matter of time before the championship leader gets decided. So regardless, ladies and gentlemen, until we get the race underway, get yourself something to eat, maybe something to drink, maybe grab a loved one, and we should be getting started very, very soon. So then, ladies and gentlemen, Hallinan has given us the go-ahead to get the race underway, and we're all set to get the Qatar Grand Prix underway. Qatar, whatever, however you want to say it. But yes, we are ready to get the Qatar Grand Prix underway. Should be an exciting race, 29 laps around the circuit, and while we have the chance, let's talk about this circuit. So, high-speed corners are going to be the main focus of traction on a track like this, so drivers are going to be looking for more top speed favorable setups. Downforce will not be the main focus of attention today. And I'm sorry, I was reading just a message from the chat. But yes, should be an exciting race. And as we get there, and being granted that this race is obviously happening in Qatar, of course, I don't think we're going to be expecting any sort of unnatural weather phenomenons taking place here today. So it should be a relatively dry race and a dry qualifying, though you never really know with this game. You can always expect something or the other to always throw a spanner into the works. But regardless, championship fight, a three-way championship fight on top of that. It's very, very exciting stuff here in Tier 2, and hopefully we can get some more exciting racing underway, and we'll see if it transitions over to the last race of the season. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we now have qualifying underway, and as I quickly get all the information set up, and as is tradition, turning on my telemetry and turning it off, as I have seemingly done that by accident every single race this season. Now then, who will be the first driver to go out on track? That is the big question. At the moment, we don't really have a whole lot of activity, and of course, clear skies surrounding the track. Doesn't look like we're going to have any rain, as was predicted, to be very frankly honest. We can see Slimmy actually putting on the medium tire compound there. I'm not too sure what that decision is, and we do have a little bit of activity there that seems to be from the Alfa Romeo garage. It may be ASR. It may be ASR Sand, but no, it is, as a matter of fact, Cassell. And Cassell will now be the first driver out on track to set a lap time, assuming that he can. And we have Font following very closely behind him. And Slimmy has also managed to make out his exit on the medium tire compound. So we will be riding on board with Cassell and getting an idea of what this track has in store for us. Sector 2 being the most tight and twisty section on this circuit. And you would think with such a low downforce track we'd have a few more DRS zones. But no, there's only the one, and that too through the start-finish straight. We can see on the map on the bottom right side of your screens that obviously it may look like this circuit has a lot of tight and twisty sections, but I can guarantee you that a lot of these corners are going to be fast, presenting a lot of great overtaking opportunities, as I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of those as this race progresses. But riding on board with Cassell now as he comes through Sector 2, we can see Font very closely behind him. There's an Alpine right behind them. That's Slimmy by the looks of it. And the Williams, of course, being Przemu. Granted, he's the only Williams out on track today. But yes, not much more to say about a circuit like this. Not a lot of history behind it. It is one of the relatively new circuits that we've been introduced to in the F1 calendar. And of course, drivers are going to have to adapt to that. The problem with always going to a new circuit is the fact that you always go through these unexpected corners. You're not really too sure about what tires to go through, what setup to use, and whatnot. But in this situation, that's what really separates some drivers from the rest of them, is how they're able to perform under these circumstances. But it looks like Font's actually managed to go and get past Cassell, and is actually going to be the first driver to set a timed lap time here at Qatar. So we're right on board with Font and see how he tackles through. We have Cassell following him very closely behind. Hopefully won't be experiencing too much dirty air. But one of the issues with a track like this, as a matter of fact, is that even though it's completely open and there's no walls or anything, I don't think we're going to be expecting safety cars, by the way, related to that topic. But it's also very easy to invalidate your lap times around here. These fast corners, and you have to take them absolutely right. If you mess up even the slightest bit, you will ruin your run heading into the next corner. And already we can see Font going extremely wide on the exit of that corner. So granted, he was going there fast enough, he might have invalidated his lap time, but luckily for him, he hasn't done so as of yet. But it doesn't look like he's setting a particularly fast lap time, not with Cassell chasing him right behind him. Now obviously it looks like Cassell's almost gaining on the Haas even through qualifying at the moment. We'll see if Font can maybe change things around. It seems like Cassell may have had some sort of incident there, or a bit of a moment, as Font has managed to set a purple Sector 2, and Cassell hasn't really challenged that. So, riding on board with Font, now coming through Sector 3, and with only really one corner left to go. Let's see what sort of times he's going to be setting here. My prediction is roughly around the 122 marks, 123 marks, but we'll take a look now. DRS wide open, Font coming across the line. Well, I say that a bit early, a bit prematurely, because the Font now coming across the line sets a 1:23.2, a very respectable lap time from him. Cassell now coming across the line. What sort of times will he be able to set? A 1:27.8. Unfortunately for him, that's not a great lap time. Slimmy, on the other hand, has unfortunately invalidated his lap time. Prezemu now comes across the line, sets a 1:23.1, a very nice lap time from him. And Robin managing to take provisional pole right away back with a 1:21.5 of rapid lap time, almost a second faster than Hallinan in P2 at the moment. Trems, on the other hand, having to avoid all this traffic, trying to make his way and navigate his way through. We see Landabot managing to set a 1:21.5 for himself. Is that Crofties, who's not too far off? It is, but Crofties has unfortunately invalidated his lap time. Slimmy, of course, coming up soon, has also invalidated his run. Trems now, we'll keep an eye on him approaching one of the final few corners on this track. Unfortunately goes wide, and just as I said so over there, unfortunately invalidates his lap time, decides to go back into the pits. The Joker Psycho, of course, not managing to set a lap time himself either, is most likely, is currently on an out lap, actually, to be fair to him, so he will still have an opportunity to set a lap time for himself. That's Saeed, who's not too far behind. It is, and Saeed has also invalidated his lap time, unfortunately. So invalidations up and down the circuit, unfortunately. Lots of drivers struggling to keep the car out on track, and you know, this is one of the things that we predicted with a high downforce, with a high speed circuit, is that drivers are going to struggle to keep it on track. But that's what separates a lot of them from the good drivers from the best drivers from the good drivers, in a sense. Keeping our eye on the bottom now, we can see Jaguar coming through his out lap as well. And I don't know who that might be. I think that might be Prezemu, who's coming across the line a second time. So that's a 1:27.8. Might have been preparing his tires once again to go for a second run by the looks of it. Hasn't come into the pit stops. The Jerko Psycho currently in P9 at the moment. Hasn't set a lap time for himself. But sure as hell would like that to change. Currently coming through Sector 2. And Bambino setting a 1:21.3, seemingly out of nowhere, manages to take provisional pole away from Robin and beats him by roughly 2/10. It's unfortunate we didn't get a chance to ride on board with him to see his progress through that lap. But someone who I do want to not miss out on is Jaguar. Of course, a lot of these drivers fighting for the championship and fighting for the lead of this. A lot of the drivers fighting for the championship, but the main battle being between Jaguar, Robin, and Bambino. So riding on board with Jaguar now, and with only 2 more races left to go, let's ride on board with him and see how his lap progresses. He manages to avoid the McLaren there that was in his traffic, and coming towards the end of Sector 1, has managed to set a purple Sector 1 with a 27.1. Very respectable lap time from him, and we'll see if he can keep this pace up and maybe take provisional pole away from Bambino. That's what you love to see, that the championship fighters are right up at the front of the grid. Right now, Bambino and Robin sitting in P1 and P2 respectively. Jaguar would love to join them on that front grid and spoil the party for them on top of that. A 1:21.3 to beat. Comes across the Sector 2. Once again, purple Sector 2, a 54.3 I believe it was. And with only a few more corners left to go, Jaguar just has to keep it nice and tidy. We've seen drivers invalidate their lap times here. He manages to keep it very nice and tidy. Now, coming towards the final corner, there's a Red Bull parked right on the apex. Hopefully he can avoid him on the exit. It looks like he can. That Red Bull was actually in the pits. DRS wide open now, and it's a long shot towards the line. Jaguar comes across the line. He sets a 1:22.2. Unfortunately for him, that's not good enough to fight near the front of the grid. He had a fantastic Sector 1 and 2. Must have had some issues in Sector 3, as he's just not able to capitalize on that fantastic lap. Sits in P6 for now. We'll bring our attention down to Jack Kings, who's also unfortunately invalidated his run. So we'll bring our attention towards some of the outlappers at the moment. Font, coming towards the end of his outlap. Cassell not too far behind him. We have Slimmy, of course, who's now switched on to the soft tire compound, and now will be beginning his run. Respect from the Ferrari team, who are currently leading the championship in this season. Saeed and Robin both sitting in P2 and P4 respectively. They must be very happy with each other. Obviously wanting... Saeed would want anything. I mean, Robin would want anything for Saeed to somehow hinder the rest of the championship rivals and allow a better chance for Bambino to win. And we'll see how this race progresses. Cassell now beginning his timed run. Obviously had a 1:27.7. Not a fantastic lap time from him by any stretch of the means, but he's looking to change that now, and hopefully he can. Font is currently out on the mediums, as a matter of fact. So I'm not too sure what the decision behind that tire choice was, but we'll see if he can maybe make any sort of dents on the grid as qualifying progresses. 9 minutes and 30 seconds left to go, and Cassell already setting a purple Sector 1. As lap times, as the qualifying time progresses, of course, lap times will eventually get faster and faster as the track evolves with more and more rubber being placed down onto the circuit. But we'll see if anyone else can maybe spoil the party for the front runners in the championship. At the moment, Cassell coming towards the end of Sector 2 has set a no purple Sector 2. However, he is 2.5 seconds up on his previous lap time. Still going to need to make a lot more time up. And unfortunately for Cassell, it's that final 2 corners that always get these drivers, apparently. As Cassell unfortunately invalidates his run and will have to go back into the pits and retry his lap some other time then. We can see Bambino and Landobot are now out for their out laps. And Font comes across the line, sets a 1:23.0, a respectable lap time from him, placing him in P9. Though he should go out and set a lap time on the softs now, I would say. Not much time left in qualifying, so drivers should be looking to hurry this along. Keeping our attention on Bambino as well. We'll see his progress through the outlap, and we'll ride on board with him once he begins his run. It seems like Robin's also come out onto the circuit for his second run as well. Ooh, and ASR Sands unfortunately gone off the track there. It looks like he might have spun out and lost control of his car. Luckily for him, it doesn't look like he's going to be impeding anyone's traffic. He has unfortunately invalidated his lap time, so he's most likely going to be coming into the pits at the end of his run to switch onto a fresh tire compound. But as for now, he should be fine. Oh, I'm pretty sure I just saw someone break a bunch of barriers there, and it was Jack Kings, who very unfortunately looks like he's slowing down significantly, trying to get out of the way for any traffic, so credit to him for that. But we're right on board with now Bambino, who is currently in provisional pole with a 1:21.3, would be looking to extend that gap significantly, feeling that 1.5 tenths is just not enough to keep someone like Robin behind. And we're right on board with him to see if he can maybe bring some sort of increase into his lap time. Hopefully he doesn't invalidate his runs. As you can see, a bit of correction needed into his entrance into that corner there. And that's what I'm talking about. You need to have the lineup towards entering the corner absolutely spot on, because even if you have the slightest deviation, then you're just going to go completely wide, and that's going to completely ruin your run. But coming towards the end of Sector 1, Bambino already roughly 200s up on his lap time. No purple Sector 1s for him, however. Though I'm sure he doesn't mind about the purple Sectors 1s as long as he can just improve his general lap time, and Bambino seems to be doing so at the moment. You have to keep in mind, Robin has now just come across the line and has begun his timed run as well, so we'll switch over to him as soon as possible. Bambino unfortunately goes extremely wide on his corner, and it looks like that's going to hinder his lap time significantly, as I don't think he's really going to have a chance to improve now with almost an 800th deficit to his lap time, or an 800th increase, and Robin at the moment seems to be pushing with all his might. Crofty is managing to promote himself and sandwich himself between Robin and Bambino with a 1:21.5, a fantastic lap time from him. But Bambino now coming across the final corner, DRS wide open. Will he get a chance to improve? We'll have to find out. Comes across the line. He sets a 1:21.315. He does manage to improve, but ever so slightly. Will it be enough to keep Robin or someone like Jaguar back down? We'll have to see. Robin now coming through the midway section of Sector 2. We'll see how much up he is on his lap time. Obviously, roughly has 2 tenths to improve on if he's looking to fight towards the front of the grid. As I completely missed his sector time. Riding on board with Robin now. Coming towards the final corner, manages to avoid the McLaren. Robin only needs 2 tenths. 2 tenths is all that's needed, and he can manage to find himself in provisional pole with only 5 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. Robin now comes across the line. He sets a 1:21.274, and it is just barely good enough to manage to get provisional pole off of Bambino. Trems managing to set a 1:21.360, a fantastic lap time from him, promoting himself up into P3. But the main point of attraction here is that Robin has managed to get past Bambino here in qualifying, but still with 5 minutes left to go in the session and not a massive gap between the drivers, is it going to be enough? I severely doubt it, but as qualifying continues, we'll see. ASR San at the moment currently out on the outlap himself. The Joker Psycho currently in P12 with a 1:22.7, would be looking to improve as well. Cassell obviously on a run of his own, 2.5 seconds now. We saw he invalidated his lap time earlier. Looking to bounce back on this occasion now. DRS once again wide open. Cassell making his 3rd run, I believe. Coming across the line, what times will he set? He sets a 121.224. Cassell completely out of nowhere, managing to take provisional pole away from Robin, seemingly having no luck through the rest of the session and unable to set a competitive lap time for himself. He goes and does so with 4 minutes left to go in the session and manages to get provisional pole off of Robin. This is fantastic qualifying results that we're getting over here. What about Jaguar, who's currently still in the pits? He's going to need to exit out of the pits soon if he's looking to make a dent. Slimmy Cam, on the other hand, is on a run of his own. Trems, obviously, coming back into the pits after setting his qualifying time. Robin coming back into the pits. Cassell will most likely be heading back into the pits himself, as most of the drivers now are waiting for their next opportunity to go and make another run for provisional pole, and we'll see how qualifying progresses through. We can see Landabot currently in P6 now on his out lap, trying to beat out the traffic with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the session. Jack King's also in P16, hasn't managed to set a lap time for himself. The Haas team really struggling today by the looks of it. But now if we can look at the map on the bottom right, Jack King's now coming across the line, has now just begun his first timed run of the session. So with 3 minutes left, a lot of drivers still choosing to wait inside the pits, not deciding to come out just as yet. Lucky High being one of the first few drivers now out onto the track. Not a whole lot of time left. Slimmy Cam now being one of the next few drivers to enter into the pits to refuel. And Jaguar currently in P10, one of the drivers who is fighting for the championship at the moment, is going to want to make an impact very, very soon. This most likely will be his final opportunity to do so. Currently in P11 with a 121.9. He has roughly 7/10 to gain if he wants to beat Cassell and if he wants to fight near the front of the grid. Will he be able to find that time? We'll only have to see. But of course, he's going to be hopeful that he will be able to do so. I believe that is a Haas, AlphaTauri, and Mercedes that are now coming out onto the pits. Or we'll keep a lookout for any Alfa Romeos or Ferraris. And 2 minutes now left to go in the session. Not much longer now before the session ends, and we have our qualifying results. And Jaguar, seemingly being the only driver at the moment, is really looking to make a run. We do see some activity in the pit garage, and that might be Robin, who's now coming out. Bambino, of course, also out at the moment, trying to set his lap times, giving way to the Aston Martin. But granted, Jaguar was the first driver out of the top three to really exit out of the pits. We'll be riding on board with him to see what sort of lap times he can set for himself. Cassell now just exiting out of the pits with 1 minute and 38 left to go in the session. He's really going to have to rush to make it towards the line in time. Hopefully he doesn't experience any traffic from behind him and he won't really have to stop. But now Jaguar beginning his lap time. What sort of times will he be able to set? We'll only see after 1 minute and 30 seconds left to go. Jaguar now coming through turn one, catching up to that McLaren and Red Bull traffic. He'd like to maybe stay a bit further back from that, but unfortunately for him, he's going to be pushing with all his might. Hopefully he doesn't invalidate his run. At the moment, he manages to keep it nice and tidy, riding on board with him to this double right-hander. Line yourself up perfectly for the next apex, and he does so beautifully. Hairpin corners, double right-handers. The circuit really has it all, and it's all high speed. It's all high-speed corners, very frankly. Not really hugging that inside line as Jaguar really should be. I'm not too sure why he isn't doing that. Maybe he just doesn't have the opportunity to, but that is a bit of time loss where others will be gaining. And he does manage to get past the Red Bull seemingly without any issues whatsoever. I believe that was Bambino. Landabot managing to promote himself up into P2. Jaguar managing to set a purple sector 2. And he has all the traffic to beat in the final sector. Look at that. Look at the number of cars just bunched up together. There's a McLaren right in front of him. Hopefully that doesn't impede his traffic and instead helps him with the DRS and slipstream advantage towards the line. And it looks like he's way further back from the McLaren. It doesn't look like it's going to be a hindrance to him. Jaguar now, DRS wide open, comes across the line. Will he spoil the party? Sets a 121.7. And unfortunately for him, that's just not going to be good enough to set a competitive lap time with the rest of the front runners. We can take a look now. Robin has now begun his time lap. Bambino getting past the Aston Martin and is on a run of his own. Is roughly a 10th up on his previous lap time. Granted, he keeps this pace going. He will be taking provisional pole away from Cassell, and the time for qualifying has expired. ASR, Sands, Slimmy, and Prezemu are no longer going to be improving through the session. Everybody else still has an opportunity to do so. Granted, they haven't invalidated their lap times, of course. But our main attention is going to be with Robin and Bambino and see where they're finishing. Bambino comes across Sector 2, a purple Sector 2, roughly 3/10 up on his previous lap time. And we can see the Haas of Font coming across the line, sets a 122.4. It's good enough for only P13. It looked like the car got out of shape there. I'm not too sure if that was ping or if that was just the control that he had on his car. Bambino now coming through the final corner, hasn't invalidated his run. DRS wide open. Will he take pole position away from Cassell? Comes across the line. He sets a 127.247, and it's just not good enough, but it does beat out Robin, who now comes across the line and sets a 121.0 as an Alfa Romeo heads straight into the wall there. And that's Cassell, who's had a major incident right at the line. But Robin manages to secure pole position, and it doesn't look like anyone's really going to be taking it away from him. Jaguar, on the other hand, gives way, and it looks like that's going to be the end of his qualifying run. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, a big congratulations to Robin, who has managed to secure pole position in the second last race of the season. Unfortunately for Bambino, he just was not quick enough to keep up with Robin on the final final qualifying lap. And Jaguar in P9 will definitely has a lot to do. Has a big mission on his hands to close the gap to the front runners and still hold a candle to this championship fight. So then, ladies and gentlemen, once again, a big congratulations to Robin for securing pole position, and what a fantastic qualifying it was. P1 to P8, all separated by roughly half a second. That's phenomenal for Tier 2, and unfortunate for Seydou Falassi, who picked up a 5-second grid penalty, a 5-place grid penalty, so he'll be dropping down to P11, and everybody else will be promoted up a position up until that point. So only 30 more seconds or a minute left to go until we get the race underway, so yeah, should be very, very exciting. Right then, ladies and gentlemen, second last race of the season. There's 5 red lights. It's lights out and away we go here at Qatar, and we've already gone off to a very fast start. Cassell managing to make a move on the inside of Robin, heading towards corner number 1. Who's going to come across ahead? It's going to be Cassell setting down the inside of Robin, and Robin around the outside, managing to retain P1 at the moment. And now Cassell coming into a battle with Landobot and compromising himself. Landobot promoting himself up into P2. Trems now trying to force a way around the outside of Bambino, who is at the moment side by side with him, and Bambino sends it down the inside to get closer, to trying to get past past the drivers as soon as he possibly can, but he's just constantly stuck side by side with Trends at the moment, and once again having to send it around the outside, and there's been a major collision there, so involving Trends and a few other drivers there. Luckily for Bambino, he does manage to power through it and does manage to come through completely clean. Where is Jaguar? Jaguar currently in P4 now. So after a horrific qualifying for him, he manages to catch up to the front runners very, very easily. And now, all of a sudden, we have a race on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. Robin in P1, Bambino in P3, Jaguar in P4, all fighting for that championship. Who's going to come out ahead? We have 29 laps left to decide this race. And a lot can change within that time frame. So let's take a look at who's the closest, where's the closest amount of action taking place, and that seems to be over here. ASR Sands roughly 3/10 behind Jaguar at the moment. We can see Saeed closing the gap to Lucky High as well. Trem's only a 1/10.5 behind Joker Psycho, but we'll keep our attention near the front for now. ASR Sands, we can see trying to keep up with Jaguar, and he's just barely hanging in there. Lucky High and Saeed now coming into a battle of their own. Saeed with that inside line, managing to make the move, heading into turn 1, and promotes himself up into P6. My throat was not ready for that sort of action so immediately, but now we ride on board with ASR San, who's now trying to catch up to Jaguar as much as he possibly can. We saw Robin manage to pull out of a second from Lando for just a split moment, and once again has done so here. It's going to hinder. That's going to hinder Lando significantly, assuming that he can't catch right back up. And the last thing Jaguar would want right now is to worry about the drivers behind him, but instead would like to just keep hunting the drivers ahead of him. He needs to stay within that DRS gaps to make sure that he doesn't drop off from the front runners. It seems like he's trying to do so at the moment. Bambino roughly 4.5 behind Lando as well. We'll be looking to get past that Aston Martin as soon as possible. We can see Lando already 1.4 seconds away from Robin. Robin basically beginning to pull away in his Ferrari. But Bambino would not like that to happen. He'd want to close that gap as soon as possible, as we now get a chance to look at the strategy. Some mediums seem to be, I believe, the tire of choices. That actually reminds me. Yes, the mediums are the tire of choice at the moment. As ASR San being the only driver on the soft, and Lucky High, Halanan, and Cassell being the only drivers on the hards. Jaguar managing to set the fastest lap time of the race. I completely missed it. Never mind. Now as this race progresses, hopefully it just doesn't turn into a massive DRS train, but at the moment that 1.4 second gap doesn't look like it's changing anytime soon. Bambino trying to close that gap to Lando as much as he possibly can, and he has been successful in doing so. 3/10 now separating both the drivers, and 2.5 between ASR and Jaguar. I just hope it isn't a race of a lot of these drivers just continuously following each other around and we have some sort of action, as I'm sure there's a lot of great overtaking opportunities on a track like this, and I'm sure they'd want to explore that as well. Bambino now 3/10 behind Lando Bot. No DRS within the first 3 laps. It'll be activated after this lap. So Bambino's just going to simply have to rely on his setup and his and the slipstream to get past the Aston Martin ahead of him, and already it looks like he's catching up to him significantly through those corners. Bambino taking a look around the outside, but unfortunately thinks better of it. Decides to line himself up for a better exit out of this corner, and a better exit is exactly what he's gone. Now massively gaining on Landobot and Bambino now side by side. Bambino choosing to take the long way around, and luckily for him, he gets the move done before the corner even begins. Bambino promotes himself up into P2, and that allows him to fully chase down Robin now. And the driver that would not want to see this is Jaguar. Jaguar now, it's up to him to get past Lando as soon as he possibly can. And we'll watch as this gap hopefully starts coming down between Bambino and Robin. But we'll see if that's the case or not. ASR San not letting go of Jaguar, basically pushing that Alpine along now. Lap 4 of 29. Already 4 laps have gone by. Not long lap times here. Only a minute 20, a minute 24, minute 25 is the expected lap time. So Slimmy now setting a fantastic lap time of a 1:24.9, the fastest lap time of the race so far. It's important to remember that ASR is, of course, on the soft tire compound, so within the first few opening laps of this race, he is going to be on the tire advantage, so no wonder he's able to keep up with Jaguar a bit easier. And as this race progresses and the tires become slowly more and more worn out, we can hopefully look to see Jaguar extending that gap to ASR and focusing more on Lando, which is why it's important for Jaguar to remember that his race isn't really with ASR at the moment. Cassell getting a 3-second time penalty already in lap 4 for multiple warnings, so invalidating his lap times. And now with DRS wide open, Jaguar's looking to close that gap to Lando, who himself also has DRS on Bambino ahead. And that gap was 1.4 seconds at the start of this lap. Now it's down to 1.6. Lucky High managing to make the move on Font, promoting himself up into P7. We can see I believe that's an Alpine that's completely stopped out there on track. Not too sure what happened there. Must have lost control of his car, unfortunately. But as much as Bambino wanted to close the gap to Robin, he's just struggling to do so at the moment. And Lando is looking to make his life even more miserable, trying to be a thorn in his side, filling up his rearview mirrors, trying to force him into making some sort of mistake so that he can capitalize and maybe make that overtake and get that position right back. Font, unfortunately, picking up a 3-second time penalty himself now. And just as I said, just as I was talking about Bambino's gap to Robin being roughly 1.5 seconds, Bambino's once again brought it right back down to 1.2. The Red Bull driver definitely pushing it with all his might, trying to get within that DRS gap to Robin. And Jaguar beginning to fall off from Lando as well. Already exited out of that 1 second gap, and that's not going to be good for him if he wants to keep the Alfa Romeo behind him in his rearview mirrors. And look at that, just as I said, it doesn't look like Jaguar got DRS on this occasion. Is ASR stand close enough to maybe make a move heading down into turn 1? It doesn't look like. Maybe he might just be, he's quite far back, but he decides to make a lunge for it. He tries to go around the outside, but unfortunately just a bit too far back at the moment, or so I thought. He's actually managed to get side by side with the Alpine. There's a bit of contact between both drivers as Jaguar manages to capitalize off that contact and keeps himself up into P4. And that battle right there costed Jaguar heavily with a 1.8 second gap now to Lando, which was within only a second. That's the problem with fighting drivers behind you. It just compromises you so significantly. Meanwhile, Bambino kind of sandwiched between Lando and Robin at the moment. He's trying to catch up to Robin as soon as possible. Some other action taking place on the rest of the grid. We can see Font trying to catch up to Lucky High, roughly 2.5 seconds separating him and the Red Bull driver. Meanwhile, Trems basically pushing Jack Kings along. We saw Trems was off to a fantastic start in qualifying. Unfortunately, got involved in some sort of incident earlier on in the session and dropped down significantly. But he's looking to bounce back now as he's ever so slowly gaining. ASR Sand, on the other hand, 0.3 separating him and Jaguar, who's now 2.3 seconds off of P3. And as we approach the DRS straight, I don't know if there's much really Jaguar will be able to do to defend from this move, as I predict ASR is probably going to get this move done before the corner even begins. And with DRS wide open, you can already see he's gaining with the assistance of that slipstream and DRS. And ASR Sands manages to get past Jaguar and promotes himself up into P4. Some more action taking place over here. Font making a dive down the inside of Lucky High. Manages to promote himself up into P7. Lucky High, will he be trying to go for a switchback? He might just be. Both drivers once again side by side. Lucky trying to go around the outside. Cannot do so. But that compromises Trems in the back there, who nearly got overtaken by Jack Kings, but actually managed to make the move on him. Sorry, it looked like Jack Kings got compromised by Trems. Got compromised by the racing ahead, and Jack Kings has dropped down. I keep confusing everyone's name within themselves, but regardless, we'll move back up to P5, where Jaguar is now roughly 0.5 behind ASR Sands. He's going to have to close that gap significantly if he wants to keep his championship dreams alive. Meanwhile, Lando 0.9 behind Bambino, and we have a virtual safety car out on track. I'm not too sure for what. It doesn't look like there's any collisions or any major incidents out on the circuit, so I'm surprised we've had one, but of course, virtual safety car conditions, drivers are not allowed to overtake each other, allowed to follow a minimum, are only allowed to go a certain speed through the lap. And once we have green flags flying, only then are drivers allowed to go racing again. So for now, drivers are going to have to just maintain their paces and maintain their positions. It's still possible to take advantage of the safety car, assuming you time yourself perfectly, but of course that is something very difficult to do. I'm sure we'll be seeing some improvements. Race control has given us the update that the DRS has been enabled, and we're once again back under racing conditions. And now Lando has closed that gap to Bambino very, very significantly. Bambino looks to go defensive. Lando goes even more defensive, goes towards the inside line. Will he make the dive down the inside? No, he will not. Lando decides to think better of it and decides to stay in P3 for now. Some more overtaking taking place here between Lucky High, Trems, and Font. Lucky High trying to send it around the outside of Font. Both drivers still side by side with each other, but now with the inside line, it doesn't look like there's much Font's going to be able to do to defend this position, and Trems manages to promote himself up into P8, chasing down Lucky High now. Landobot, on the other hand, roughly 7/10 behind Bambino. Only 21 laps left to go in the session. And Trem's pushing that Red Bull along. We can just ride on board with him and see how close he is. Slightest mistake will cost him severely. We can see Font is thankfully quite far behind him at the moment, so not much to worry about from his end. Though obviously Trems would not want to make any sort of mistakes at a point like this. We'll bring our attention towards Lando, and we can see that flashing red light on Bambino's car, signifying that he has less than 10% ERS remaining, and that opens up a brilliant opportunity for Lando, assuming that he can get a good exit out of this corner. DRS wide open. He is most definitely going to be using his battery to catch up to Bambino as much as he possibly can. And will he be able to send a move on Bambino? We saw Bambino get past Lando earlier, and once again Lando managing to get past Bambino once again, promotes himself back up into P2, and we can see Bambino not done with this fight just yet, trying to fight this position back. Unfortunately, there's just not much he can do, trying to take that inside line and maybe get a switchback. If he can time himself perfectly, he might be able to over here. Unfortunately, he can't do so at the moment. Tries to tuck behind him in that slipstream to get a better run on the exit of that corner. Unfortunately, he's just not able to at the moment, and we'll have to compromise and stay in P3 for now. And all this is doing is allowing a great opportunity for Robin to extend his advantage by 1.5 seconds, and even more so as this lap continues. And that's exactly what Robin would be wanting at a time like this. He'd be wanting the drivers behind them to fight amongst themselves so that he can keep extending his gap. .2 separating him and Landobot. I wouldn't be surprised if these drivers just keep exchanging positions through the start-finish straight, through the DRS straight. And as we ride on board with them now, coming through the final corner on the track. DRS once again wide open. And once again, we'll see, of course, Bambino. It's important to remember that Bambino does not have a whole lot of ERS to fight for this position to begin with, and he's going side by side with Lando, but he does manage to get the move done before the corner even begins, promotes himself back up into P2. So both drivers currently just exchanging positions at the moment, and Jaguar now closing the gap to ASR, who's 3.3 seconds off of Lando. But with 19 laps left to go in the session, really anything could happen. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a safety... I would be pretty surprised if we saw a safety car, actually. This track is quite wide with a lot of runoff area. I don't think there's really a whole lot of circumstances under which a safety car could really appear here. So, but as we saw, we did have a virtual safety car, so who really knows at this point. Riding on board with Jaguar now, 7.5 tenths separating him and ASR. We can see 7 tenths separating Lando and Bambino at the moment. Not much action taking place near the bottom of the grid either. And once again, as they approach the start-finish straight, Lando just has so much more ERS than Bambino does. It looks like Bambino has been saving for the last few laps. No more flashing red lights at the back of his Red Bull. Ooh, and Bambino getting all sorts of out of shape there. As I say the no flashing red lights, though, I'm pretty sure I just saw some. Yep, there they are. But luckily for Bambino, he has enough of a gap to keep Lando behind him at the moment. Jaguar now actually out of nowhere making a move on ASR. This is a move that's been building up for quite a while now. ASR, of course, on those 10-lap-old softs, he's going to be feeling the degradation on those tires eventually. And it seems like Jaguar has now capitalized on that and promoted himself up into P4, allowing himself to chase Lando, hopefully with some free air. And hopefully he can bring that gap down to bring himself closer to Bambino and Robin, but we'll see as this race progresses. 4.2 seconds being the gap at the moment. Lap 11 of 29. I believe it was around lap 17 that the medium runners are going to be coming in for their pit stops. Obviously, ASR San's going to have no choice but to go for an undercut. Granted that he's on the soft compound tires, but I'm curious to see how much of an undercut has an advantage on a circuit like this, and when will ASR actually decide to come into the pits? All these questions and more. As we approach the DRS straight once again, Lando now only 6.5 tenths behind Bambino. He's still so far back from this perspective. It doesn't look like Lando is really going to be able to catch up to Bambino, at least not by the end of the straight. He's gonna have to just compromise and stay in P3 at the moment. Meanwhile, Jaguar getting chased by ASR Sands at the moment, but luckily for him, ASR too far back to make any sort of moves. You see Cassell promoting himself up into P10. Congratulations to him. Actually made a move through that straight. Six tenths now separating ASR and Jaguar. Well, we haven't really seen much of a dent between Bambino and Robin at the moment. Bambino has managed to drop off Lando a significant amount, maybe because of some sort of incidents by Lando, maybe some sort of mistakes Lando was making through that lap, but what we haven't really seen is Bambino really closing that gap to Robin, or really getting within that 1 second, which I think he's been struggling to do since the start of this race, and of course, granted, he's almost out of ERS, it's just not helping him at the moment. Meanwhile, Robin seems to be doing very comfortably on his ERS and keeping that Red Bull in his rearview mirrors. So it seems like almost every driver now has a second gap to each other, other than Cassell in P10, who's rapidly gaining on Font, as it seemed to be. Actually, bring our attention back down there for a second and see what's going on over here. Seidel Felasi manages to get past ASR Sands, who's now finally come in for his pit stop in lap 13 of 29. And Cassell, catching up to Font as we saw earlier, DRS wide open, manages to make the easy move, is now targeting the Haas in front of him. But unfortunately, can't get him on this occasion. He's just going to have to stay sandwiched between the Haas teammates for now. Hopefully he can capitalize on this next time he comes across the straight. It seems to be this is the closest battle out on track at the moment. Bambino still outside of that 1 second gap to Robin. And unless Robin makes a crucial mistake here, I would see Bambino really... Oh, well, I could see Bambino catching up, but... Granted, Robin's pace at the moment, it just seems like a mistake is all he can really hope for. Not a whole lot of close racing going on otherwise. We saw that Jaguar was roughly, I believe, 4 seconds off of Lando's pace, and now he's 5.2 seconds off. So even though he managed to clear ASR Sands, it may be a case of being a bit too little. It just may be a case of being too late. But of course, there's still a significant amount of laps left to go. Who knows, with the safety car, things could change around dramatically. And once again, it seems like Jaguar actually being one of the first of the medium runners to head into the pits to switch off of his tires. Lap 14 of 29, 15 laps left to go. What are the tires he's putting on? He decides to put on the hard tires. Jaguar looking to go towards the end with that set. Granted, he could have just kept running for a bit longer. He might have been able to put on some of the sauce, and we see a bit of action going on over here. Lucky High and Cassell coming into a battle with each other. Lucky High and Font coming into a battle with each other. It looked like Font was about to go side by side with him through those corners, but Font decides to stay back for now. He's going to be most likely looking for another opportunity where he can get a better overtaking chance, but as of now, he's fine. Jaguar coming out in P10. And interestingly enough, having ASR Sands right behind him, and once again on the faster tire compound. Jaguar and ASR just can't seem to really be separated from each other at the moment. Not a whole lot to compensate over in this race. There was a lot of action within the first half of the race, but now we're just kind of... I think things have just begun to mellow out a little bit as Lando now heads in for his pit stop. Will Saeed follow suit? No, he will not. Decides to stay out. Trems does follow suit, however. And now the hard runners are actually managing to catch up towards the front of the grid. We can see Cassell and Lucky High both starting off on the hard tire compound to now in P4 and P5 respectively. And how will this help Jaguar? Surely he gets past some of these runners, right? He does have the Alfa Romeo right behind him. ASR and Jaguar both going side by side now. ASR making a move down the inside. Manages to make the move before the corner even begins. Promotes himself ahead of Jaguar into P8. And it doesn't look like Jaguar's really going to have much that he can do to fight back against this. Not for now at least. Until the end of the race, he's going to have to stick behind him. Granted ASR is on the faster compounded tires, of course. But he does crucially get past Trems. We'll have to see how he handles through the rest of the grid. He needs to... Jaguar and ASR both crucially need to get past Saeed. Which, granted at the pace that they're going at the moment, I don't think is a whole lot to ask for, but we'll see. It's important to note that Saeed and Cassell also have time penalties, but Robin and Bambino now heading into the pits side by side with each other. And the Red Bull and the Ferrari teams both coming out to make a perfect pit stop. They're going to want to make sure that no driver gets left behind. And it looks like they both did a fantastic pit stop. Robin stays ahead of Bambino. And they both are slowly making their way out of the pits now. Saeed manages to get promoted up into P1. Granted that he didn't go into the pits. Cassell on his hard tires, of course, doesn't come into the pits. Is now up into P2. And where does this place Jaguar and ASR? They both managed to get past Lucky High, thankfully. But of course, are still a long way off of Bambino and Robin. ASR managing to set the fastest lap time of the race with a 1:24.6. And Bambino on his fresh set of hards, chasing down Robin at the moment. And what's good for Bambino is the gap between the two drivers was around 1.2 seconds or 1.5 seconds. Bambino was struggling to get within that 1 second gap, and this pit stop is exactly what he's needed. 6/10 now separating him and Robin. And this will play a major role heading down the DRS straight, as it will allow Bambino to finally stay within that DRS gap. "13 laps left to go." And Saeed has now come into the pits. So important to see where he will come out. Cassell, of course, gets promoted up into P1. And now Bambino, DRS wide open. 6/10 separating him and Robin. And he's ever so slowly. He is gaining on the Ferrari. It doesn't look like it's going to be enough at the moment. He's going to have to stay behind him for the rest of this lap. But Bambino has crucially closed that gap significantly towards Robin, as he struggled to get within that second earlier. And now he's managed to get past him. And Jaguar and ASR San have crucially gotten past Saeed as well. That's who they absolutely needed to get past through the pits. And they've done so now, so that's good for them. Bambino pushing that Ferrari along. So only 6.6 seconds ahead. Let's hope he doesn't prove to be a bit of traffic for Robin and Bambino to have to navigate through. We could get so clean racing between both these drivers. Crofty is now setting the fastest lap time in the race on the hard tire compound as well. Very impressive. Of course, as the race continues, cars become lighter and lighter with less fuel within them. And obviously more rubber being placed down on the track just allows for more and more grip. 6/10 was the gap last time they went through the DRS straight, and it just was not good enough for Bambino on that occasion. Now all of a sudden the gap being 3/10. But will it be enough? That's the big question. It looks like Bambino's gotten a very nice exit out of that corner. DRS wide open, and he's gaining ever so slowly on Robin. It doesn't look like Robin's really going to have a lot to do to defend from this. Bambino taking that inside line, heading towards turn 1, manages to make the move stick, and Bambino promotes himself up into the lead of this race. Robin drops down into P2. But of course, this is not the final positioning for these drivers. It's important to remember that Robin can potentially make this overtake right back through that DRS straight once again, as they may just keep exchanging positions as we've seen between ASR and Jaguar earlier in the race. And Landabot currently in P3 as well has just been kind of driving a race of his own. Completely is 3 seconds off of the front runners and 3 seconds off of P4 at the moment, so he's really just in an island of his own. Crofty setting once again another lap time, fastest lap time, a 1:24.3. Granted, he is in P15. He'll still get that extra point, I believe. Five tenths separating Bambino and Robin now. 3 tenths was the gap when Bambino was able to make that move on Robin. But we know Robin also has a lot more ERS, I believe, than Bambino does. So he may be using a little bit more than he would typically like to stay within that gap. We can see that flashing red light signifying Bambino's lack of ERS. Robin, unfortunately, just a bit too far back on this occasion, though there might have been a bit of contact there between him and the Red Bull driver. I'm not entirely too sure there. It looked like from that angle there might have been. But luckily, they both escape unscathed there. Saeed now setting the fastest lap time of the race with a 1:24.2. Only 10 laps left to go in the session. And Jaguar still within that 4/10 gap to ASR. A lot of drivers picking up penalties. This is what we meant by, of course, track invalidations and everything. It's clear to see here that a lot of drivers are struggling to keep their car out on track. As Jack Kings now picks up a 3-second time penalty. 5/10 separating these drivers, and we can see Cassell getting extremely close to Jack Kings there for a second there. I thought he was going to make a potential overtake. Guess I was wrong. And Robin, even though he's closing that gap to Bambino, it doesn't look like it's really going to be enough unless he sends a move down the inside at the moment. But no. Once again, Robin just sticking behind Bambino for now. And Jaguar and ASR coming into a battle of their own. Jaguar actually managing to get past ASR. ASR, of course, on his 7-lap-old mediums, might be beginning to feel the wear and tear on those tires at the moment. Though I'm sure they still have plenty of life in them. This might have just been a simple case of overtaking each other because of DRS, but who knows, really. Both drivers pushing each other along. Lucky High currently in P9. 4.5 tenths separating him and Cassell. A lot of drivers just driving their own races at the moment. The Joker Psycho currently in P15. We have a yellow flag in Sector 3. And that is the Alpina Slimmy. Luckily for us, no damage on his car and no broken wheels. So luckily for us, I don't think we're going to have a safety car. And he's back moving, so that's good to see. No safety cars at the moment. ASR Sands keeping that gap to roughly 2 tenths to Jaguar. Once again, will most likely be overtaking him on that DRS straight. Robin now, 5.5 tenths, almost 6 tenths now to Bambino. Lost a lot of time there by the looks of it. And with DRS wide open, and he's slowly trying to gain. He gains a significant amount of time, and what happened there? I'm not too sure what happened there. It looked like Bambino hit the brakes seemingly out of nowhere, causing Robin to drive right into the rear wing of him, into his rear end, and that may have caused some front wing damage too. Robin, he is not going to be happy about that. We can see that front end plate missing there on the left side of his wing. He's definitely not going to be happy with Bambino at all there. I'm not too sure why Bambino hit the brakes, unless Bambino was assuming that there's going to be a retirement out on track and there's going to be a safety car, which it's not the case. Regardless, there was no reason to brake without the safety car notification coming up. And now we can see Robin has dropped off significantly to Bambino. And now Lando Bot coming out of nowhere with that inside line manages to make the move, promotes himself up into P2. And Jaguar now trying to catch up to Robin as well, who's dropped significantly back from oh, no, never mind. He's very close to ASR at the moment. But very unfortunate for Robin there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that report coming into the steward's office after the session. As there's absolutely, I don't think there was any justification for Bambino to be braking on the straights, as Robin has no other choice but to head into the pits to change his front wing, and that's going to hinder his championship fight significantly. I don't want to imply it was dirty racing, because you never really would want to imply that on any driver. You never, as a commentator, you never understand the circumstances behind it, but I can't really see a whole lot of reasons for defending Bambino for hitting the brakes on a straight and causing... He's just brake checking Robin at that point. Well, once we get a onboard POV, I think we'll get a better idea of what's actually happened here. But what this has done, interestingly enough, has brought Jaguar back into the title fight. He only has Lando ahead of him now. ASR stands right behind him. 7 laps to go in this session. And with Robin all the way down in P12... You can't help but feel for the guy. Drove a fantastic, near perfect race throughout this entire session, and now, on the final few laps, has to deal with this massive frustration of his. Bambino in a world of his own, with 5.3 second gap to Lando at the moment. Cassell, on the other hand, closing in on Trems. The Alfa Romeos have the Mercedes sandwiched between themselves. Though I say sandwiched, but ASR is quite frankly very far ahead from Trems at the moment. Whoa, what happened here? Bambino's gone into the pits? And it looks like he has. Bambino's actually gone into the pits for a surprise pit stop, which I was not expecting. Has gone onto the soft tire compound to maybe set the fastest lap time of the race, but that allows Jaguar to go through. Has Bambino just seemingly forgotten that Jaguar is part of the title fight? Has he just forgotten that Jaguar's leading the championship? Like, what was the decision there? He's brought himself back down. He's brought himself significantly down to Jaguar. And granted, the points to Robin at the moment is 7. Assuming Jaguar just finishes in P2 even now, he's going to just win this championship. Or... would he win this championship? He would, wouldn't he? 7 points being the gap. If Robin, currently in P12, finishes where he's at, he's going to finish with 0 points. And then you do 25, and then you finish 18 plus 7. That's 25. There's nothing Robin would be able to do. I don't think there's anything Robin could do. Yeah, it looks like Jaguars had more wins in the season as well. What was the decision making? Why, Bambino? And now he gets overtaken by Robin? Am I missing something here? Is there some valuable piece of information that I don't have that I should know about? Regardless, Jaguar now currently in P2. The championship fighters, Robin and Bambino, sitting in P11 and P12. I can understand Robin's frustration, but for Bambino to make that pit stop made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Robin now finishing in P1. Now this could make things interesting. Because if Robin finishes in P10, he gets 1 point. If Jaguar finishes in P2, oh no, he gets 20 points, not 18. P2 will give you 20 points. That's still not enough. No, that's enough for Jaguar to win this championship. 5 laps left to go. Jaguar just needs to finish in P2, and Robin needs to make sure that he... As long as Robin stays in P10, if Jaguar finishes in P2, he can win this championship right here. Allegedly. Either that or my maths are extremely off. The Joker Cycle has now left the session. There is a Ferrari stopped on the middle of the circuit. That seems to be That seems to be Saeed, who's had a bit of a moment there, but that allows Robin to go up into P9. Is this an incident, a crash gate all over again? We'll have to see. Jaguar now 5.7 seconds behind Lando. Where is Robin? Robin is 7 seconds behind Font. Bambino now in P10. Roughly 1.1 seconds behind Robin. I understand the sportsmanship aspect to this move. If Bambino decided to make that pit stop as a sportsmanship act to Robin, I understand that. I can respect that. But to throw away your title fight is completely unreasonable. 4 laps left to go. Bambino setting the fastest lap time of the race on 1:23.1. That's an extra point for him. I need to open up the standings. 11 to the leader. Bambino's 11 points behind Jaguar. Finishes in P10 with the fastest lap, gets 2 points. So bring that gap down to 9. But then, granted, Jaguar finishes in P2, and that's 20 points. So that's 29-point gap. So Bambino would be out of the title fight completely. Robin finishes in P9, that's 2 points. Brings the gap down to 5, but then 20 more points for Jaguar. It's going to be 25 points. Yeah. Realistically, unless Robin manages to get past Font, I don't think there's really any chance for. And it looks like Lando's actually coming into the pits as well. He could have gone on to win this race. Why are drivers coming into the pits? Jaguar getting overtaken by Cassell and ASR. Both the Alfa Romeos working in unison with each other, and now they come into a collision with each other. It looks like both teammates were working in perfect unison with each other to get past the Alpine, but unfortunately Cassell and ASR stand coming into a collision with each other, and that compromises Cassell heavily as he drops down and once again has to stay behind Jaguar. Jaguar now trying to push and catch up to ASR for the lead of this race. Things have changed dramatically, turned around significantly. Robin in P8, Bambino in P9. Oh, and Robin picks up a 3-second time penalty. Right where you don't want one. 3 laps left to go in this session. Oh, you have no idea what you missed if you're just joining us. I've arguably seen the stupidest decision making in my entire F1 commentary career. I've never seen someone throw a championship this bad. Jaguar now trying to keep up with the ASR stance. 3 laps left to go. DRS wide open. Cassell now getting another opportunity to get past the Alpine. Hopefully this time not to be bothered by his teammate. And now once again both Alfa Romeos are going to come together significantly, as it was a great job from ASR keeping that Alpine behind him as he tucked it right in front of him, and Cassell manages to promote himself up into P1. ASR stands staying in P2. Bambino picks up a 3-second time penalty. Talking about Robin, no, so Robin pitting was understandable. Bambino was on the straight. I believe from what it looked like, Bambino brake checked Robin on the straight. Robin broke his front wing, had to go into the pits, had to make a pit stop. That makes sense. Bambino was still fighting near the front of the group, Bambino was leading the race, or maybe in P2. Jaguar was in P4. Jaguar is winning this championship, by the way, at the moment. And Bambino, for seemingly no reason whatsoever, makes a pit stop. His hearts could have gone to the end, easily gone to the end. Jaguars are going to the end. Trends are going to the end. They needed to realize that their battle was with each other, not with the rest of the grid. Blood or knock, whatever you want me to call you, Cheyenne, whatever. If you could you please do some calculations for me at the moment? Because I think Jaguar's winning this race. Granted, if this is the finishing order, I'm pretty sure this is the finishing order. I'm pretty sure this is that he's winning this championship. If things finish as they are. Jaguar actually managed to promote himself up into P2 just as I say that, so that's extra points on the board for him. We're on the penultimate lap here at Qatar. And what seemed to be a close championship fight that was going to lead into the final race of the season, all of a sudden, we're not so sure anymore. Robin currently in P7. Bambino currently in P9. Robin being the closest fighter to Jaguar at the moment. Oh, there's a Ferrari that's gone extremely wide there. I'm not too sure who that was. That might have been Saeed there, getting out of the way for the rest of the grid. If Jaguar finishes second, championship will still be alive? Yeah, if Robin's in P7 now, then it's going to be alive. But it's only going to be alive for Robin, I think. Bambino would be out of it. Regardless, ladies and gentlemen, we are now beginning the final lap of this race. A lot of confusion, a lot of drama, a lot of incidents, a lot of racing. And even now, I'm still not too sure what to think of this race. Jaguar managing to promote himself ahead of Cassell, who's significantly slowed down there. I'm not too sure why Cassell is going so slowly. Weaving left and right. Is that going to... I'm not too sure what's happened there as he drives off and into the barrier. And that's going to be the end of Cassell's race. And Robin now getting promoted up into P5. Oh my dear God, the championship's alive. So, out of fuel. That's crazy. Lap 29 to 29. Jaguar pushing himself towards that line. Robin now in P5. I don't think Jaguar's champion right now. No. Because, granted, the gap to... So, okay, let's get this done. Jaguar's 7 points ahead of Robin at the moment. I believe Robin has fastest lap. No, Robin doesn't have fastest lap, I don't think. Actually, can I check that? No, I cannot. I feel like I'm trying to work out way too many calculations at once. It's impossible to. Yeah, I don't think the championship's over. Simply because Robin managed to get himself back up into P5. I think that's the only reason why this championship is still underway. But regardless, you can't take away from what was a fantastic race for your championship leader, who extends his gap significantly to Robin, comes across the line. Jaguar wins the Qatar Grand Prix, comes across the line, finishes in P2. ASR Sands crawling towards the line. It looks like a lot of these drivers are crawling towards the line. Comes across the line, finishes in P3. Lucky Eye in P4. Oh my God, Bambino finishes in P5. Robin drops out into P7. Oh, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Is that the championship? I don't know. Oh, geez. It might be the championship. I think Jaguar's champion. This is the most underwhelming moment I could have for... Yeah, okay. So, ladies and gentlemen... With that, I would like to introduce you to you all. Season 15's champion for Tier 2, Jaguar. A big congratulations to him. A fantastic season he's had throughout. As we quickly verify that, I believe. With Bambino finishing in P5, that's 10 points for him. So, he gets those 10 points. That's 21 points, but... No... I don't know. I have no idea. I give up. My brain can't brain right now. Wait, hold up on the celebrations. Okay. We'll wait up on the celebrations for now. It's a 26 point gap to Bambino? I mean, no, I don't think it's possible still. I still don't think it's possible. I mean, 26... So it's a 26 point gap to Bambino. And to Robin, it would be... A 26 point gap to Bambino, meaning this race is still, the championship fight is in technicality still alive. We head into the final race of the season with a championship fight seemingly still existing there. Bambino's going to need to get a race win and the fastest lap, and Jaguar is going to need to DNF. So they both are tied. Oh, okay. So Robin and Bambino are now on 106 points. Jaguar's on 132. So 26-point lead to them both. Interesting. And I've been kicked out of the session. Lovely. Okay. So 26-point lead to both of them. So the race is still on. Championship is still on. I thought Jaguar had won the championship. He has not. Technically not. Though many people could consider it over. But I guess this is F1, so you never really know. But again, thank you all so much for joining me today. It's been a crazy session. Hopefully next time we go live, we'll have a better idea of what the hell is going on. We go to Bahrain for the final race of the season, a track everyone knows, a track everyone's familiar with. Opening race of the season in the actual F1 calendar, so a lot of drivers are familiar with this. But regardless, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining me this Thursday for Tier 2. I hope you all have enjoyed this race as much as I have. And yeah, I hope to see you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.